G's, no design on my jacket. Work hard, now I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hearing that racket. Dots came, man, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know he stay 10 toes. Big dog, man, you know I ain't worried. Bent up, so I'm talking real slurry. Got a blast, bro.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Adam Caplan MMA show. I am the voice in your ears. Let's get right to it because we've got Sergei Pavlovich versus Curtis Blaydes. Pavlovich is victorious in the first round against Curtis Blaydes. Once again, Sergei proves that he is an absolute monster in the UFC when he gets to put away fighters in the first round. And when he stuffed that takedown to Curtis Blaydes, Curtis kind of went the wrong road by still being stubborn to want to stay striking with Sergei Pavlovich. I think that he should have been more relentless with his wrestling, because I look at it like this. If it was a wrestling match and Curtis Blaydes had his takedown stuff, he would have no choice but to, again, try to put something together to get that wrestling going because it's in a wrestling match. But now that it was in mixed martial arts and Curtis has more options, he kind of, stemmed away or moved away from his bread and butter in his wrestling when that first takedown got stuffed and Pavlovich took over. I was really happy at the fact that Sergei Pavlovich didn't take a slower, more tentative and timid approach against Curtis Blaydes due to the fact that it was a 5-round fight and due to the fact that Blaydes is a wrestler. Because like I've said before on the live streams and et cetera, when I was breaking down this fight, when you are a guy who's a fast starter and you have to pull the reins on yourself and slow yourself down, that could actually be more exhausting than just going balls to the wall and actually going for it. And Sergei Pavlovich didn't indeed do that. He came out swinging. He's got heavy hands. He's got lightning hands, as we've seen online when he was shadow boxing under the pier. He's a force to be reckoned with. And I'll be real with you. Stipe and Jones are not getting their act together to sign the dotted line, and the clock is already ticking for Stipe. Let's be real here. He hasn't shown much interest to want to necessarily be in the UFC for the long haul. He's had bones to pick with the UFC for a very long time, and now he's not the UFC heavyweight champion, although he is going to go down as one of the greatest of all time in the heavyweight division. But now he's kind of, letting a great fight slip away from him in Jon Jones, who is now indeed, the greatest of all time and the heavyweight champion of the world. So we're kind of getting a little bit like, all right, let's go already. Are we going to get this matchup or not? Because if we're not, Sergei Pavlovich versus Jon Jones is an interesting one because I actually thought that Jon's boxing was his weakest attribute in the octagon against Ciryl Gane. I didn't feel that his boxing was that sharp, and you could see that's why he was using his front kicks and his leg kicks to make up for the fact that he wasn't necessarily comfortable with the ones and twos of the sweet science. And, gotta say, Sergei Pavlovich is a guy who's very, very comfortable in his boxing. A part of me would like to see Sergei Pavlovich box Russian former champion Alex Povetkin. I would just like to see a sparring session with the two of them. I mean, it would be a complete one-sided thing from Povetkin, but just to see, a raw heavyweight in Sergei Pavlovich being put in a situation where he's only allowed to box, and then it's against, virtually a guy who fights a somewhat similar style in Povetkin. It would be so interesting to watch. Just a sparring match, though. I won't get ahead of myself. But, come on now. Pavlovich versus Jon Jones is the fight to make. And Curtis Blaydes, where does he go from here? I mean, look, I would love to see the rematch with Tom Aspinall because I'm looking right now, and yeah, Tom Aspinall could come back and fight Marcin Tybura. I'm not a big fan of that. I actually think that if he's not going to go and fight the likes of Ciryl Gane or maybe Curtis Blaydes, who's looking for a quick turnaround, I think that a great one is Tai Tuivasa. I mean, come on. Tai Tuivasa has world-class popularity in the UFC. The fans are going to be boozing out there in London. Win or lose, Tai Tuivasa is still going to booze. He's going to go on there and try to slang and bang with a technical Tom Aspinall. And Tom Aspinall will kind of have, a little bit of pressure on him fighting the likes of a guy like Tai Tuivasa who fights with a very nothing-to-lose mentality. But it'll give us the opportunity to see more tools and more fundamentals from Tom Aspinall, which is what we believe is what's going to get him to the UFC title. We don't think it's his one-punch knockout power. We actually think it's the fact that he's one of the more well-rounded, athletic, and technical heavyweights in the UFC division. So that's a great one there. Great fight, great matchup. Event was what it was. Co-main event was what it was. Bellator, man. Bellator shined. Congratulations to Patchy Mix. A beautiful left knee down the pipe. Completely knocks out Hoffy and Stotts. Out cold. He's $1 million richer and the interim bantamweight champion. And now Patchy Mix gets to sit front row and center in Chicago, Illinois to see Pitbull versus Sergio Pettis for the bantamweight championship in Bellator. And I got to be real with you, man. Patchy Mix is on a hot streak right now, and I'm not surprised that he's $1 million richer because he showed something against Kyoji Horiguchi and throughout that whole tournament that he is getting better and better. He's more confident, and he knows how to utilize that chip on his shoulder with his skill set. And you could see that it's even improved the striking at the same time. So congratulations to Patchy Mix. A beautiful, beautiful bantamweight championship performance in Hawaii. I couldn't think of a place to be $1 million richer in a great state like Hawaii or the island of Hawaii. So that's a great one there. And now we've got Gervonta, Tank Davis versus King Ryan Garcia. And I got to tell you, I've been on the Tank train for about 2 years now in terms of this matchup against Ryan Garcia, that I didn't think Ryan had anything for Gervonta Davis. And listen, it was a very patient fight on both of their ends. I felt that Tank did hand fighting very, very well. You know, when you're a southpaw fighting an orthodox and you're fighting a guy like Ryan Garcia who has more reach, has a good jab with good speed, and then also has a beautiful whipping left hook, the number one recipe to help nullify that is hand fighting. You know, when you're getting an orthodox versus a southpaw, there's nothing better, man, than hand fighting that lead hand. Because if your opponent is quick with his jab, likes to throw those whipping lead hooks, you're going to nullify that. And that's what Tank Davis was able to do. Plus, Tank Davis is about 5'5.5". It's probably actually 5'4.5". You know, they like to milk those things. He was staying below the chin of Ryan Garcia, like I said that he would. And because of that, the jab of Ryan Garcia was really almost scuffing the top of the forehead of Gervonta Davis, which is not going to hurt him at all. You know, and another big deal was the amount of volume both of these fighters threw was so minimal. Take the first round, for example. Ryan Garcia won the round because nothing absolutely happened. He was just the one who threw more punches and maybe landed a few that weren't that big of a deal. And then in that second round, Ryan Garcia got a little bit more comfortable and closed in on that range more because Ryan is the taller, rangier fighter. He uses his jab to his lead left hook or just his solo lead left hook to try to put opponents away. He has to fight at an outside range, which is a good range to beat Gervonta Davis. But Gervonta is too crafty. He's too smart. He's too smooth. You know, he's been in the game, in the professional game at the top, just much longer at this point. And you saw that in the ring too, because when Ryan Garcia closed that distance, Tank Davis got real low to the floor, started utilizing his head movement, and came over the top with an overhand left that Ryan Garcia did not see coming, and he knocked him down in the second round. Tank wins the round 10-8. And then, you know, between the third and the sixth round, all I could see was that there is a smirk on Gervonta Tank Davis's face that is telling me, I've got something up my sleeve. I've got Ryan Garcia on the scope, and trust me on this, he is going down to the mat. He just had that look in his eyes and that little grin in his mouth that just told me that something was going to happen. Did I think that Ryan looked like he belonged in there with Tank? Absolutely he did. But did I think that he did have trouble once the lead hand was nullified? Absolutely. But about the fifth or sixth round, Ryan Garcia starts finding his right hand. And that was very nice because the way the Tank was dropping real low, I really felt that the right uppercut was going to be there. And Ryan was reluctant to throw those uppercuts because, you know, if he drops that right hand, that leaves Garcia open for a beautiful overhand left or a left straight or maybe even a faster, quicker left uppercut from Tank Davis. So you could see why Garcia was reluctant to drop that right hand for the uppercut, but he started using the overhand right. He started using the right hook and a little bit of the right straight. And when he used his angle on one of them, he was able to tag Tank and put him up against the rope. But Tank was just too smooth with lowering his center of gravity. Because Ryan fights so tall, he doesn't bend his knees very much, and he doesn't level change with his punches much. Even when he hits to the body, he's standing in the same place virtually. He's not sitting down on it. He's still standing nice and tall, but he's so fast that he whips that knuckle right underneath the elbow on his opponent. And you saw that he was able to take a nice angle, land a nice right hand on Tank, put him up against the ropes. But again, man, Tank is just too smart, too smooth, was able to get himself out of the situation. And you could just tell that once the fight got out of that outside range where Ryan Garcia needed to leave Tank, and even Ryan got overzealous by getting inside, that's when the fight was over, man. In the second round, in the sixth round, and then in the seventh round, once the fight got into the inside, you could absolutely see that Tank Davis was the better fighter in there. And I know it wasn't a good clip to base it off of, but I watched the sparring session and I mentioned it on the live stream. I did a pre-chat with Jeremy Wilson. It was a great, great chat. He's at the event covering it, or he was at the event when you're watching this. That was a great live stream. Go check it out. We've been doing more live streams and they've been going great as well. And I was on with him and I was telling him that I watched a sparring session with Canelo Alvarez and Garcia, different weight classes, different ball game, different echelon. I get it. But when I saw that Canelo was just walking slowly, casually forward on Ryan Garcia, making him work on the back foot and making him work in the inside, his volume just wasn't there. And his defensive tactic wasn't there. He doesn't move his head. He just merely shelled up. And I felt that in the inside range, Gervonta Davis completely took advantage of it because Ryan Garcia doesn't level change. He keeps his chin in the air. He stands very stiff as he's throwing those whipping punches. He doesn't move his head always after when he's done punching. And another thing, too, is he closes his eyes. And when Tank Davis is the smaller, faster guy, in those chaotic sequences and is able to come out on an angle, you best believe he's going to hit you with it. And that's what he did in the seventh round. He tags the liver of Ryan Garcia. Ryan is taking a few steps. He's reluctant. He's looking like he's going to return and fire, but he takes a knee. He takes the 10 count. He says the F word underneath his breath. And then he was a little bit reluctant also to admit what was really going through his mind when he was accepting the 10 count. Seems as if maybe something happened with the ribs. Seems as if maybe there was a pre-existing injury, or Ryan Garcia just didn't really know what to say, how to feel in that moment. And you could see that he was kind of eating his words a little bit in those moments. So I'm not really sure. We'll see what happens there. But I'll tell you one thing. Gervonta Tank Davis is absolutely one of the faces of boxing. I can't wait to see him get in there with the likes of Shakur Stevenson, the winner of Devin Haney, the undisputed champion, or Vasily Lomachenko. I think that those fights are great. Will we ever see him at 140? I'm not sure yet. I think that there's too many matchups at 135 right now that are glorious for Tank Davis to do. And it's just really great to see, like I said, two high-level, two high-profile boxers getting in there and doing what they need to do to put it all on the line. It was an amazing performance. I felt that Tank definitely showed that he was the better fighter in there. But I got to say, Ryan Garcia definitely belongs in some of the upper echelons of boxing. I'm looking forward to his comeback in return. And all I'm hoping is that the other fighters in professional boxing learn and grow from this, sign on the dotted line earlier rather than later, and risk their record a little bit more. Because, yeah, Garcia has a 1 on his record. But if you look at all of the greatest of all time, they all have a blemish on their record. Some of the greatest of all time in our current standing have losses on their record. So a loss to the king, Ryan Garcia, means absolutely nothing. I'm looking forward to his return too. Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, Devin Haney. Come on now, put some respect on it. And, you got to keep up with the live streams. I've been not really scheduling them lately, like pre-planning them. Essentially, when I feel like it, I set up the studio like this. I hit record. I go in. What's been cool is that I'm bringing on guests in the journalist space and in the MMA and boxing media space, to kind of show different sides of me. You could tell by this whole breakdown, if you stayed throughout the whole thing, that was dense. This is like a broadcast in a way. This, you get to see a little bit more of a casual flow and sense of me. Maybe I'm sipping on something, chatting with one of the fellas or one of the ladies in the space and, just shooting the shit back and forth and talking about events and matchups and all of those things, keeping it casual, keeping the watch time up, the viewership and all of those things. And it's been working out really great and I've been loving it. So hope you've been liking that throwback from episode 1. If you want to go check that out, that episode doesn't even have a thumbnail. I got the Steelers sweater on from episode 1, and I didn't even announce the fact that we're already over a year in the game because, I was so kind of lost in the sauce on trying to get things going. with the rebrand of the Adam Caplan MMA show that I didn't even mention it. So we're over a year in the game. I thank everyone for listening. The people who like, subscribe, comment, share my stuff, the friends that I've made, the connections that I've made, the support that I get from strangers and people who are close to me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate my guy Brett always putting in that work. Me just throwing out demands at last seconds, not even being organized and expecting him to meet those deadlines. I appreciate him for that. And I just got to say that the Adam Caplan MMA show is here to stay. We're obviously going to be talking boxing as well. And there's going to be big things on the rise like there always is, because as long as one of these are in front of me and one of those are on me, you know your boy AC is going to return and fire. So that's the Adam Caplan MMA show. Good tidings.
Big cheese, no design on my jacket. Work hard and I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hear that racket. Dogs came in, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know you stay 10 toes. Big stone, man, you know I ain't worried. Bent up, so I'm talking real slow.